everybody, and welcome to IELTS Live Thursday. Today I wanted to look at some different approaches that I've seen students take to their IELTS preparation. And this was triggered really by a conversation that I had with a student on Monday who was talking about several courses that he'd taken in IELTS with different IELTS teachers. And that he felt that he hadn't really got the help he needed to move on and get his bands. And one of the things I noticed from what he was telling me was that he had, for example, in the writing, when he'd submitted his writing, the teacher had given him a band. He wanted, I think, band 8, and the teacher had given him a band 6. But the teacher hadn't explained to him how he could improve his writing or develop his writing to get that band 8. So how do you move from band 6 to band 8? And that got me thinking about approaches to teaching IELTS, but also to studying IELTS, and how if you don't know how to fix the writing that's at band 6 level in order to move it to band 8, then how is that even going to happen? And so I was thinking about different approaches. And another student who was telling me that he needed to improve his speaking. So I asked how much speaking he did on a daily basis, and he said hardly any. So this approach clearly is not going to work. If you want to drive a car, you cannot learn how to drive a car unless you get in the car. You can't learn it remotely. And I think there are a lot of problems like this in different approaches to study for IELTS. So you have to do it. You cannot get it without doing it. So I looked over some of the approaches that students were taking, and I've come up with a couple that I feel don't work, and then the one that does work. And the one that does work is an approach to learning English language, which has been practiced for probably, decades, if not maybe centuries, in fact. But certainly since the modern way of teaching English language started to come on board in the sort of 50s and 60s, in the 20th century, 1950s, and especially in the 1960s. And that is an approach with a lot of science behind it, science in learning and everything else. And it is the way to go from beginner to intermediate to advanced. And it is a proven method. So let me look at some of the other approaches that you might be using, and these might resonate with you. So the first one is very random practice. So today there are resources all over the internet. So random practice would be when you wake up and you think, okay, what shall I do today? And you go around on the internet and you look for something. Okay, here's a reading. Let's do this reading. Now, there's no thought behind that. I like to call this the box of chocolates. So you've got a box of chocolates and you just pick one and hope that you like it. You may not like it, and therefore what do? You throw that one away and you pick another one. But it's very random, and there's no kind of sustainability, and there's no progression in it. So the box of chocolates approach is, I feel, the one that a very huge number of students use. They just go randomly online, find something, work on that for a bit, doesn't seem to be working, let's go find another one. And when you finish the box of chocolates, you may have discovered that, you didn't really enjoy them. And if you use this box of chocolates approach, you may find that you haven't actually made a great deal of progress. Okay, approach number 2 is like the all-you-can-eat buffet. So that's where students sign up for everything, sign up for lots of different courses, and they just pile one after another. Just like if you go to an all-you-can-eat buffet and you fill your plate with lots and lots of different types of food, and then you sit down to eat, and you're not sure what you're eating, because the foods that you're eating don't necessarily go together. They're just chosen at random, and they don't fit together, and you're not really having a nice meal because you've got too many different choices on your plate. But the hope is that you'll enjoy it and you'll feel full. And the hope with this approach to study is that if you do, 20 courses, maybe one of them is going to give you what you need, or two of them, or three of them, or maybe bits from each of them will help you to reach that magic score of 7 or 8, whatever it is. But it's not satisfactory because it's an all-you-can-eat buffet. And different teachers have different approaches, and sometimes those approaches might clash with each other. Or one teacher might tell you this information, and the second teacher might say, no, ignore that. This is the way you do it. And then another teacher might have a different approach. So all you end up with in the all-you-can-eat buffet is confusion. And you still seem to be going round and round in circles. And if you've watched a lot of my videos, you will know that I call this the headless chicken syndrome. And both the chocolate box approach and the all-you-can-eat buffet keep you in that headless chicken situation. It's not giving you a way through. So the third approach, which I call the tried and tested step-by-step process approach, is the one that has science behind it, that has a lot of education, research behind it, and is the way that we normally teach language. And remember, IELTS is about language. At the end of the day, it is absolutely about language and your language ability. And language ability does not go from 0 to 60 in 10 seconds. It takes time to go build up each level. So if you're a beginner at English, you start with simple sentences and words. Then you move on to intermediate, where you get more longer sentences, more vocabulary, etc. Then you move on to advanced. Now, if you're doing IELTS and you need band 7 or 8, you will need to be at advanced level. And you cannot go from beginner to advanced without going through the intermediate stages. So you will find that in your English there are gaps. And those gaps need to be identified, because if you don't identify them and plug them, then there are always going to be gaps in your performance. And that means in the exam, you're unlikely to get the 7, because there will be things in what you do, what you say, what you write, perhaps even in your reading and your listening, which will cause you to fall below that level. So in the tried and tested step-by-step approach, this is what happens. And this is the kind of approach I teach, because I am a teacher who was trained in this approach, and I've been teaching for over 40 years. And I know that many of my colleagues who have this same approach, we are successful in what we teach. And the students we work with get their scores. Now, they won't all get them in a month because they're starting out at different points, but they will get them if they stick with it. So the way this works is you learn something, then you practice it. Then where it goes wrong, you correct it. And you keep practicing again until it's clear. And then you learn something new and you practice it. And you correct it, so there will be mistakes. And then you practice it again so that it's correct. And once it's correct, you can then go on to the next area and do that. So it's like a building process, but you can't get it all together like the all-you-can-eat buffet. You have to deal with each issue and each part of your progression at a time. And once you do that, then things start to fall into place. So I find when I'm working with writing with students, at first it's chaotic and they're worried because they think everything's going wrong. But gradually everything falls into place and suddenly they know what to do. It becomes simpler and then they start to focus on the small areas that are still preventing them from getting the 8. So it might be a little grammar point, or it might be some spelling, but it will all sort of develop, and soon you'll know what you're doing. Now, to take this third tried and tested step-by-step approach will always require a certain amount of investment. And I want to say a little bit about investment. All of you are taking IELTS for a specific purpose. Now, that reason might be to join a postgraduate course. It might be to register as a doctor or a nurse or some other kind of professional. It might be to move to an English-speaking country where you can where you can develop your career in that country. And all of these things require high levels of IELTS. But you need to focus on the reward. What is the reward if you get your IELTS? It will be a new job. It will be the ability to attend a master's degree course or a PhD program, or to move and live with your family in a country where you can develop your career to a high level. And all of those things mean better earning. I'm pretty sure that in every case that will increase your ability to earn more. So at this stage of IELTS, which could stop you in your tracks from doing any of those things, it's the key to that new life, to that better earning. And if you don't invest in yourself, then that dream will not happen, because IELTS will either stop you forever, and I know lots of students who give up completely, or it will delay your ability to realize that dream. Because if you do the box of chocolates approach, or you do the all-you-can-eat buffet approach, it's going to take you a lot longer to reach your goal. So what I want to say today is look at your practice, look at how you're preparing. And if you're doing the box of chocolates or the all-you-can-eat buffet, you need to consider changing to a more proven method. Now, if you want to talk to me about that, I'm really happy to do that. I love speaking to students about where they're stuck and how they can overcome those problems so that they get the result within a short space of time. I tend to work with students generally over about 3 months, and during those 3 months we can improve every bit of IELTS, including the speaking and writing particularly, to get to those magical 7.5, 8 scores. So please, if you want to speak to me about how to get onto that approach that will guarantee that you are able to get the results in the exam, then just send me a DM or follow the link that I put underneath this video, and you can book a call with me and we can explore the best way of getting your score within the next 2 to 3 months. But please, if you're doing the box of chocolates or the all-you-can-eat buffet, consider changing that approach. And also think about how important a small investment now will be to your whole future that you dream about. Okay, I'll leave it there. It's important that you get the right support, and that's what I want to help you to get. Okay, thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video, the next Thursday live, sorry. Bye-bye.